Since the dawn of human conflict, the ground beneath our feet has proven every bit as perilous and unforgiving as the harshest adversary. When disregarded, nature remains utterly indifferent to the atrocities we inflict on one another. Throughout history, warfare has frequently thrust civilized societies into a struggle against untamed and merciless natural landscapes. As a result, conflict sometimes pits people not just against fellow humans, but also against predatory opportunists, creatures equally motivated by survival instincts. This marks the first installment of humanity's struggle against wolves. Few animals are as widely recognized as wolves. Even though human settlements have spread and wolves have been deliberately exterminated for centuries, these canines continue to occupy vast territories. Wolves roam across most land masses north of the equator, and perhaps fittingly, despite clear distinctions, they share many traits with people. Evolution has shaped wolves into diverse forms and dimensions. Their physical appearance and social customs differ significantly, driven by the environments they've adapted to for survival. Much like people, wolves are regarded as intricate and exceptionally clever creatures. Their continued success stems from a structured social order. Wolves hunt in small groups, tend to their wounded and pups, and reside in family units. Much like humans, they are highly territorial and favor hunting within a specific range. They fiercely protect these boundaries, particularly from stranger wolves. Such territories usually span about 50 square miles while seeking prey. Yet wolves can cover up to 30 miles of their hunting domain in just one day. When prey grows scarce due to factors like severe winters or other natural upheavals, their territory can expand beyond 1,000 square miles. Here again, resembling humans, wolves exhibit semi-nomadic behavior. From time to time, they relocate their hunting grounds across enormous stretches in pursuit of a disappearing food supply. Although they are known to hunt smaller creatures such as rabbits, rodents, and fish, larger wolves require larger prey. The big wolves of northern Europe and Asia, measuring 5 to 7 feet long and weighing up to 180 pounds, 80 kilograms, primarily hunt large ungulates like wild boar, caribou, and various deer. Wolves can go several days without food and then devour up to 20 pounds of meat in one sitting, particularly after a prolonged fast caused by scarce resources. Notably, a wolf's olfactory senses are so keen they can sniff out prey from over 1.5 miles away. Upon locating prey, they typically encircle larger animals. They then launch a ferocious assault on the face, legs, and back, shredding flesh with sharp teeth. Their aim is to swiftly immobilize the prey and avoid harm to themselves as they finish off the struggling animal, either by crushing its windpipe or tearing out its throat. Pack members frequently start feeding on the fallen animal while it's still alive, disemboweling it. They begin with the soft liver and other edible organs, followed by fatty tissues, tender belly meat, and thicker leg parts. Though wolves often target weaker prey when necessary, they actually prefer healthier animals. Their main edge is pack hunting, even though an average pack contains only about 6 wolves. Wolves have been observed bringing down adult bull moose, enormous, highly aggressive creatures that react with extreme violence when provoked. A bull moose can stand up to 7.5 feet tall and weigh 10 times as much as an average wolf. A wolf's bite force can exceed 1,200 pounds per square inch, allowing it to snap through a moose femur in just 6 to 8 bites. For context, crushing a human skull takes just over 500 pounds per square inches. Being carnivores, the largest wolf species live where food is abundant. Unfortunately for people in Europe, Russia, and Asia, including soldiers sent to wage international wars in those territories, some of the most fearsome wolves dwell there, exquisitely adapted to survive even the harshest, coldest climates. Even though humans aren't a regular food source, desperate times inevitably drive desperate actions. The relationship between wolves and people extends back before recorded history. Scientists still debate topics like the domestication of dogs, possibly 40,000 years ago. But far less certain is whether humans have always sat atop the food chain, a question that remains contested today. When natural calamities like severe weather or earthquakes, or human-caused catastrophes like war, diminish their usual prey, wolves frequently venture into human areas. They initially target any accessible livestock. Once sheep, cattle, and horses are exhausted, recent history shows that their next targets can very well be people. Wolves have been killing and eating humans since well before ancient times. This is hinted at by enduring folklore about dangerous wolves and mythical werewolves, and is underscored by the fact that wolves still pose a threat in many parts of the world. Among modern populations, nowhere are wolf attacks more common today than in Russia. The latest incident took place in early January 2021. An unarmed farmer in Russia sustained multiple injuries while defending his horse from a wolf attack. The wolf had already killed his 2 dogs and livestock before he engaged it with his bare hands and choked it to death. Fellow villagers in the Novotroitsky area report that wolf attacks on dogs and livestock are increasingly frequent. Despite deforestation in the region, attacks on humans have become less common in recent years, though they still occur in numerous places. Such incidents have taken place across the sprawling nation. Unlike their North American counterparts, wolves in Russia have consistently posed a danger to humans for centuries. The anonymous farmer likely feels fortunate to have survived his lethal confrontation with a wolf. This is detailed in Will Graves' 2007 book Wolves in Russia, Anxiety Through the Ages, which gathers 50 years of collective research on Russian wolves. According to author Will Graves, a fit and athletic individual can repel a single wolf's attack. However, without proper weaponry, he will inevitably be overpowered by a pack. The relative scarcity of wolf attacks on humans in North America can be attributed to the widespread ownership of firearms. Graves further explains that the lack of information about native wolves since the collapse of the Soviet Union is due to suppression by the communist regime. If the true danger of wolves were widely known, people would insist on being well armed, which might spark revolution. Graves continues by stating that the decline in wolf attacks over centuries is due to targeted hunting and culling to manage wolf numbers. This was particularly prevalent in areas of North America, Europe, and Asia where attacks were once routine. Yet, when these regions remain unprotected for extended periods, for instance, when men are deployed to war, wolf populations can surge unchecked. When several natural and human-induced factors align by chance, wolf populations grow while their food sources crash, driving the animals to desperation. Because of their territorial instincts, fierce competition often arises between packs. Typically, they are intolerant of one another, except during extreme need. Starving wolves may occasionally override these ingrained behaviors. Small packs of former rivals may uncharacteristically merge to form what's called a super pack, which can balloon into hundreds of ravenous predators. Though exceptionally rare, requiring a bizarre combination of catastrophes, these starving animals, when they encounter an unexpectedly abundant source of vulnerable prey, including humans, have been known to kill every living creature they can, often leaving mutilated and partially eaten carcasses. Will Graves refers to this unpredictable behavior as surplus killing in his 2003 book, Wolves. Co-author Dr. L. David Mack notes that surplus killing of wild prey by wolves is infrequent. Every documented instance of surplus killing of wild prey by wolves has taken place within a few weeks in late winter or spring, when snow was exceptionally deep. This observation aligns with historical records. Unusually large or aggressive wolf packs have emerged during particularly severe winters. These events have become legendary because their typical prey disappears. Whether because the animals fled or perished, these situations can lead to wolves attacking people. Modern humans, as Will Graves highlights, may be better prepared to avoid such predation. Yet historical accounts show this was not the case for many hapless residents of 15th century France. Europe has a rich and well-documented history of wolf attacks, perhaps exceeding that of any other contemporary region. Research by Professor Jean-Marc Morisset shows that France has historically recorded the highest number of fatal wolf attacks, spanning a 400-year period from the late 15th to the 19th centuries. Professor Morisset indeed indicates this. This is supported by Charles Perrault's Mother Goose Tales, published in late 17th century France. Hundreds of Little Red Riding Hoods and Tom Thumbs were attacked by wolves yearly. While modern wolves teach their pups to avoid humans, people have long devised stories to caution their children against wolves. One possible source for these French fairy tales is the supposedly true 15th century tale of the legendary Courtauld, a giant man-eating wolf. Whether entirely accurate or not, this story is a notable footnote in French wolf attack history. Different sources give varying dates for the event, ranging from 1438 to 1450. A 2015 study from the Oslo Center for Climate Change Research, which analyzed over 3,000 medieval records from more than 100 sources, reveals that France experienced its coldest temperatures of the entire second millennium during the 1430s. The last year of these extreme temperatures was 1438, which is likely the most accurate date for the event. As with other similar wolf encounters, these abnormal weather conditions give the story more credibility. The rise of man-eating wolves could not have happened at a worse time for the French, during a terrible Parisian winter in the middle of the Hundred Years' War between Britain and France. France was already struggling on multiple fronts, despite the end of the Civil War, the recent liberation of Paris, and growing French victories in the ongoing century-long conflict. As the year ended, morale among Parisian peasants was understandably low. City dwellers and nearby villagers faced hunger, bitter cold, another bubonic plague outbreak, and now the terrifying prospect of being mauled to death in the streets by a bold pack of starving wolves. In his 1937 book focused on wolves, Ernest Thompson Seton paints a vivid picture of this scene. As snow deepened and food became harder to find, wolves grew hungrier and bolder. A lone traveler or even a small party stood no chance of survival if they ventured into the wolf-infested woodland encircling Paris. Driven mad by hunger and with fewer travelers on the roads because of the harsh weather, the wolves' desperation increased. Soon, a rogue pack of hundreds of wolves left the forests around Paris. They roamed freely through nearby hamlets and villages, attacking humans and livestock that grazed near the city's walls. Remarkably, humans became their primary prey, as wolves left sheep, horses, and cattle untouched. The pack seemed to be led by a huge red alpha male that locals had seen roaming the countryside for years. The locals had nicknamed him Corto, which means bobtail, after one of the pack's bold attempts to enter the city. Following a herd of livestock heading to market, guards sounded the alarm and lowered the portcullis. The falling gate is said to have severed the leader's tail as he escaped, giving him his name. Worried about losing more cattle and sheep, Parisians started throwing plague victims' bodies. Over the wall, they hoped the wolves would eat the infected corpses and catch the plague. The wolves devoured the bodies, but modern research shows wild carnivores are rarely susceptible to bubonic plague. The plan backfired completely. Wolves remained disease-free. Apparently, the Parisians' actions only spurred the starving animals to seek a way into the city more eagerly. Seeking live prey, their terror reached a climax one evening. The wolves found a previously blocked 3-foot gap in the city wall where the frozen Seine River flowed under it. They crept into the unsuspecting city and started prowling empty streets, chasing dogs and other animals. Then they came upon a group of about 40 men in Notre Dame Square clergymen leaving the cathedral, and a horrific attack began. The night air was filled with the screams of men as they were overwhelmed and swarmed by the relentless wolves. Within 20 minutes, every unarmed man was dead. Witnesses presumably did not dare intervene, fearing they would soon become victims themselves. After feasting on human flesh, the wolves left the city in under an hour before residents could organize resistance. According to Ernest Thompson Seton, not one wolf was killed. Unsurprisingly, the wolves' ability to breach the fortified city and commit such a massacre caused widespread panic and mass hysteria. Beausoleil, the city guard's captain, asked the king for permission to set up a baited wolf trap. As citizens stayed inside, the river gate was lifted a few feet above the ice to let the wolves in. Only one street entrance to Notre Dame Square would stay open, with the others blocked off. A gate was built that could be swiftly dropped from an upper window, capturing the unconscious wolves within the square. The captain commanded that for the next 2 weeks, no person or animal could exit the city. Garbage could no longer be thrown over the walls, denying the wolves any external food sources. Instead, all waste would be spread throughout the square, and any livestock meant for slaughter would be butchered right there in the square. The goal was to soak the ground with the strong smell of blood. Afterward, the leftover animal entrails would be hauled from the raised river gate across the icy surface, all the way to the cathedral, leaving guts in the square as extra lure. For days, several wolves, but not Corto, cautiously came near the river entrance, sniffing around with curiosity. The attempt to attract the clever creatures with leftover beef and trash seemed pointless. After 10 days, the captain reluctantly ordered another 20 healthy cattle to be slaughtered in front of Notre Dame Cathedral probably desperate enough to act in broad daylight. Finally, hundreds of wolves, led by their red-furred alpha and following their sharp sense of smell, entered the city to start feasting. Beausoleil personally dropped the gate behind the wolves, locking them inside the square. City residents packed windows, walls, and rooftops to witness the event. The city's men then launched an attack on the wolf pack, firing arrows. Within an hour, many wolves lay dead. But many of the swift wolves dodged the arrows or pulled them out, surviving a single hit. Archers kept firing into the swirling mass of hundreds of animals. The mighty Corto had taken shelter in the middle of the square, shielded by a large fountain, still with dozens of wolves by his side, seeming to salute the king. Beausoleil and a team of skilled warriors climbed down a ladder into the square. The gate was lifted to let dozens of wolfhounds join the fight and wipe out the remaining wolves. Then came a spectacle that thrilled everyone watching. As recorded by Satan, the king wolf stood up, gave a great rallying howl, the war cry of his species, and attacked the dogs. The fight raged for 30 minutes, and every single dog was killed. Corto killed a dozen in that struggle, and no wolf was killed, only a few injured. Then Beausoleil and his men charged with long spears. Several wolves died, but some men lost their lives in the process. Many were viciously bitten and retreated from the sharp spears. The alpha wolf and his surviving pack raced toward the church entrance, seeking shelter in the stone archway. Beausoleil and his soldiers regrouped for a new assault to finish off these wolves. The only one still standing was the pack leader. Satan then ends this epic confrontation. Then Beausoleil, a brave man who favored a fair fight, shouted for everyone to hold back since only the wolf remained. He challenged the beast to a one-on-one duel and charged with his lance, like a knight confronting another knight. The massive wolf reared up and leaped to meet him. The lance pierced the creature's chest, but the wolf lunged with full strength, sliding up the lance and knocking the man to the ground. Using his terrifying, slashing fangs, Corto tore through the leather jerkin and ripped the throat strap of the man's helmet. He tore out the man's throat as he lay on the ground. They fell together in a death grip, their red lives pouring out, and the great grim wolf and the brave strong man lay dead together. Legend says the cathedral bells then tolled, soon joined by others from nearby churches. 300 dead wolves were counted as Paris celebrated the end of the great Corto's terror. However, these final events seem exaggerated, Corto conveniently surviving as the last wolf, and the romanticized double death of both the great wolf and Captain Beausoleil. Still, the overall story likely contains a grim kernel of truth. France's population would indeed suffer from repeated wolf attacks in the centuries to come, including the terrifying tales of the Beast of Gévaudan and the Wolf of Soissons. But Europeans stepped up their efforts to eliminate these predators from their communities. For almost the next 5 centuries, there were scarcely any reported instances of such a large wolf pack. In the early 1900s, as most of Europe was engulfed in World War I, the situation shifted in early 1917. With freezing temperatures along the Eastern Front, both Russian and German troops had morale as low as the mercury. They fought each other miserably in and out of foxholes. The ground was often so frozen that digging trenches was impossible. That winter turned out to be extraordinarily cold, coincidentally one of the worst of the century. This wasn't limited to Northern Europe and Russia. It affected the entire Northern Hemisphere, reminiscent of the Parisians' experience centuries earlier. Despite the brutal weather and the continuing war, soldiers on both sides were about to face an even more terrible ordeal. They had no idea that a shared predator was now stalking them.